Hello, hello, hello! Welcome back to another episode of Speak English with Luna. I am so incredibly happy that you decided to hit play today because today is the day everything changes. Today, we are tackling the big boss of language learning. You know what I'm talking about, right? It is that little voice in your head that takes a beautiful English sentence, translates it into your native language, thinks of a response, and then translates it back into English. It's exhausting. It's like trying to run a marathon while carrying two heavy suitcases. It makes you feel slow, it makes you feel shy, and it stops you from being the real you in English. Well, today, we're going to learn how to drop those suitcases and finally start thinking directly in English. And to help me guide you through this transformation, I have a very special guest. His name is Julian, and honestly, just listening to his voice makes me feel like I can learn anything. Julian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Luna. It is a joy to be with you and with all our listeners around the world. It's a beautiful day to talk about the mind, isn't it? I have spent many years studying how our brains process words, and I can tell you that mental translator is not your friend. But it is also not your fault. It is just a habit we need to gently break together.
A habit we are going to break starting right now. But everyone, listen closely. I want to be very honest with you today. This episode is a journey. We are starting right now at a comfortable level, nice and easy, very clear. But as we move forward, the path will get a little steeper. The English will get faster, the vocabulary will get more sophisticated, and by the end, Julian and I will be speaking at a very high professional level. This is my challenge to you. Do not stop. Do not close this app. Even if you feel a little lost later, stay with us. Just let the sound of the language wash over you. If you can reach the final minute of this episode, you are proving to your brain that you are ready to stop translating and start living in English. Julian, do you think they can do it?
I don't just think they can, Luna. I know they can. The secret isn't about knowing every single word in the dictionary. It's about the courage to stay in the conversation even when it feels difficult. That is where the real growth happens. Shall we begin?
We shall. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders. Let's go. Before we dive into the how-to part of today's episode, I want to take a second to speak directly to your heart. If you are listening to this right now and you feel frustrated because you can't find the right words, or if you feel embarrassed when you make a mistake in public, I want you to know that you are safe here. This podcast is a mistake-friendly zone. Julian, why is it that we feel so much pressure to be perfect the moment we open our mouths in another language?
It is quite natural, Luna. You see, we associate our language with our identity. When we struggle to speak, we feel like we're losing a part of ourselves, or perhaps appearing less intelligent than we truly are. But here's the secret. The brain cannot learn effectively when it's in survival mode. If you're stressed, your brain locks the doors to your long-term memory. To stop translating, you must first stop judging yourself. You need to feel safe enough to play with the language, much like a child does. A child doesn't worry about grammar rules or sophisticated syntax. They worry about connection.
I love that. Connection over perfection. That is going to be our mantra for today. I want you, our listener, to imagine that Julian and I are sitting right there with you, maybe having a cup of tea or walking through a quiet park. There is no test at the end of this. There are no grades. There is only discovery.
Precisely. Just listen to the rhythm of my voice. Don't try to translate every syllable. Just let the meaning settle. You are doing much better than you think you are.
Okay, Julian, we are comfortable, we are feeling safe, and we are ready to work. Let's get into the meat of the problem. Why is it that even when we know a lot of vocabulary, we still feel the need to translate? It's like there is a middleman in my brain who refuses to leave the office.
That is a perfect analogy, Luna. The middleman. You see, when we first start learning English, we use our native language as a map. It's a reference point. If I say the word tree, your brain immediately looks for the equivalent word in your own language to confirm the meaning. This is helpful for the first month, but after a while that map becomes a barrier. You aren't looking at the tree anymore, you are looking at the map. To stop translating, you have to burn the map and actually look at the forest.
Burn the map. I love that. But how do we actually do that in real life? Because when I'm in a conversation and someone asks me a question, my brain panics. It goes, okay, what did they say? Let me translate that. Okay, now what is the answer in my language? Okay, now how do I say that in English? By the time I'm ready to speak, the other person has already changed the subject. It's so frustrating.
I understand. The first step is to change how you learn new words. Most people learn with a one-to-one method. They write table equals mesa or book equals libro. This is a mistake. When you do this, you are cementing the link between the two languages. Instead, you should use images or emotions. When you learn the word serene, don't look for the translation. Look at a picture of a calm lake at sunrise. Feel the peace. Associate the sound of the English word serene directly with that feeling. You are building a direct bridge from your senses to the English language, bypassing your native tongue entirely.
So it's about creating a mental image instead of a mental dictionary. That makes so much sense. I noticed that when I started talking to my dog in English, and yes, I know that sounds crazy, but when I say walkie time, I don't think of the translation. I just see his wagging tail and the door.
Exactly. That is a B1 level victory, Luna. You are connecting an action to a sound. Now, as we move into more complex territory, what we might call the B2 level, we have to start thinking in chunks or patterns. For example, I was wondering if, or how's it going? If you try to translate how's it going literally into another language, it often makes no sense at all. But if you learn it as one single chunk of meaning that represents a greeting, your brain doesn't have to work as hard. You are reducing the cognitive load.
Cognitive load. That sounds very professional, Julian. Let's push ourselves a bit more now. For our listeners who are staying with us, and remember, stay with us even if it's getting harder, how do we deal with more abstract concepts? It's easy to imagine a table or a dog, but what about words like nevertheless or ambiguity?
That is where we enter the sophisticated realm of the language. When you reach a B2 or C1 level, you must immerse yourself in the context of the language. You stop asking, what does this word mean, and start asking, in what situation is this word used? At this stage, your internal monologue is key. You must start narrating your life in English. When you are making coffee, don't just think coffee. Think, I'm currently brewing a fresh pot of coffee because I'm feeling a bit lethargic this morning and I need a caffeine boost to kickstart my productivity.
Wow, Julian, that sounded so fluent. But honestly, when I try to do that, I get stuck. I don't know the word for lethargic or brewing in the moment. What do I do then? Does the middleman come back?
No, Luna. That is the moment you must embrace the gap. If you don't know a word, describe it in English. If you don't know lethargic, say, I feel like I have no energy. If you don't know brewing, say making. The goal of high-level English is not to have a perfect vocabulary, it is to have linguistic flexibility. At a C1 level, a speaker isn't someone who knows every word, it's someone who can navigate around any obstacle without leaving the English language. They stay within the English atmosphere we discussed earlier.
That is so powerful. Staying in the English atmosphere. I can feel the level of this conversation rising, Julian. We're talking about deep cognitive processes now. It's almost like we are retraining our brains to have a second personality.
In a way, we are. There's a linguistic theory that suggests we become slightly different versions of ourselves in different languages. When you stop translating, you're allowing your English self to emerge. This version of you isn't just a copy of your original self. It has its own rhythms, its own humor, and its own way of seeing the world. To achieve this, you must stop being a student of English and start being a user of English. You must accept the ambiguity and the nuance. You must stop seeking the correct translation and start seeking the effective expression.
I love that. Effective expression. It's about the flow. It's about the dance between the speakers. Listeners, are you still there? I know Julian just used some big words, but did you feel the energy? You are listening to high-level English right now, and you're understanding it. You're already doing it. It's time for our word tour. This is my favorite part of the show because we take the beautiful, sophisticated concepts Julian has been sharing and turn them into tools you can carry in your pocket. Julian, let's start our tour. What is our first essential term for today?
Our first stop is immersion. Many people think this requires a plane ticket, but it's actually a state of mind. For example, creating an environment of digital immersion by setting your social media to English forces your brain to stop looking for the exit. It's about staying within the English atmosphere we discussed earlier.
Brilliant. And what about that voice inside our heads, the one that never stops?
That would be the internal monologue. This is the private conversation you have with yourself all day long. For example, to master the language, you must consciously shift your internal monologue to English when performing simple daily tasks like making a to-do list.
I've been trying that lately, and it really helps. What was that technical term you used about the brain's energy?
That is the cognitive load. It is the total amount of mental effort being used in your working memory. For example, when you stop translating word for word, you significantly reduce the cognitive load, which prevents that brain-tired feeling after a long talk.
I think we all know that tired feeling. Let's add 2 more to the list.
Let's look at nuance. These are the very small, subtle differences in meaning, feeling, or tone. Example, instead of just saying good, a fluent speaker understands the nuance of using words like superb or adequate depending on the situation. And finally, linguistic flexibility. This is the art of being adaptable. Example, her linguistic flexibility was impressive. Even when she forgot the word for stethoscope, she described it perfectly as the tool doctors use to hear your heart.
Amazing. 5 powerful tools for your journey. Now it is time for our community challenge. We want to hear from you. We have talked a lot today about the theory of thinking in English, but now we want to see it in action. Here is your mission. Today, I want you to pick one simple everyday routine. It could be brushing your teeth, taking a shower, or walking to the bus stop, and narrate every single movement in your head using only English. Don't worry about being perfect, just keep the flow going. Julian, what is the specific question we want them to answer?
I want to know, what was the most difficult object or action to describe without using a translation? Or how did it feel when your English self took over for those few minutes? Share your experience with us. We want to hear about those small victories where the middleman finally took a coffee break.
We made it! We have reached the finish line. I want to stop for a second and give you a huge round of applause. If you are hearing my voice right now, it means you accepted my challenge at the beginning of the show. You stayed with us even when the vocabulary got deeper and the concepts got more complex. You didn't run away. That is a massive victory for your brain. Julian, any final parting thoughts for our listeners who navigated this English atmosphere with us today?
Just one. Remember that fluency is not a final destination where you arrive and stop. It is a relationship you cultivate every single day. By staying focused for these 15 minutes, you've proven to yourself that you possess the stamina required for high-level communication. Do not fear the silence when you're looking for a word. That silence is simply the middleman leaving the building.
I love that. The silence is progress. Thank you so much, Julian, for your wisdom today. And to you, our listener, if you found this helpful, please subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Let's stop translating and start living in English together. I'm Luna, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.